Hello everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back to this week's episode of My Big Sister podcast. I'm Grace and this is my big sister Josie.
And today we're going to be sharing all about our health stories, especially Grace's scoliosis experience, and answering some of your guys' questions.
Just a quick note before we start the episode, we are not doctors, and because we're going to be talking a lot about health today, we just wanted to remind you, if you are having genuine health concerns, please talk to a professional. This podcast is just sharing our own experiences and hopefully something fun to listen to, so make sure you talk to a professional if you do have any genuine health concerns.
And we're also going to be talking quite a bit about surgery, so just a slight trigger warning to let you guys know that's what we'll be discussing, but we hope you enjoy.
Yeah, that's the boring bit over, and let's get into the episode.
You've spoken about your scoliosis story quite a lot online already. I wonder how it feels to share that story with the world. Has it been a positive thing? Was it scary at first?
I think it's definitely been positive. So for those of you that don't know, I have a condition called scoliosis, which is a deformity which happens kind of randomly. It can be genetic, but it's not caused by lifestyle. Normally you're just born with it, and it's a condition where your spine is curved. So there can be many different variations. It could be curved sideways, front or backwards, and there can be different degrees. So depending on how severe your problem is, it will be curved to a higher degree or a lower degree. And that's a condition that I've struggled with most of my teenage years, and only really in the past few years recently I've opened up about that online, and I think it's been so nice because in my personal life I didn't know anyone really that was going through a similar kind of journey as me, so to now be able to share my story online and realise that actually there's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of girls that have seen my videos and can relate to it, has been really nice and refreshing, and it feels like we've got a community now online of everyone that watches my videos that might have the same condition or want to know more about it. So I feel like before we answer your guys' questions on this topic, I will give you a little overview of kind of my journey with the condition, because I feel like if you don't know anything about it, you might be a bit confused, especially some of the videos I post online when I say I have a metal back or a metal spine. People are like, what? They're so confused and don't know much about it. So I thought I would give you guys a little overview. So this all started back when I was around 10 years old, and my mum noticed that my posture was always
Can I just say that I was the one to notice it first?
Yeah,
I think.
So my mum and my sister Josie.
Something's going on here.
Yeah, Josie noticed, and my mum would always say, oh, it's just because she's on her iPod too much, because back then I had an iPod Touch because I wasn't allowed a phone yet because I was too young. So I had a hot pink iPod Touch, and I would go on Instagram on that, and I would go on Tumblr and all these apps which probably you shouldn't be on when you're 10 years old, and my mum would just say, oh, her posture's bad because she's always looking down at her iPod. And then I think it was you that was the person that kind of pushed my mum to be no, I think she should go see the doctor about this.
Yeah, no one has a posture, especially when you're that young. It couldn't possibly be from technology when you're that young.
Yeah, I don't think my lifestyle was obviously I was at school most of the times. I wasn't on my phone constantly, maybe how people might be now.
And you can work to improve your posture, but no one's posture is as bad as someone who has scoliosis just from not sitting up straight.
Yeah, so my mum took me to my local GP, and I had to wear quite a small top so he would see my back. So I was wearing a vest top, and he made me bend over because when you bend over, your spine is more kind of pushed out so you can see it more. And he said that he could tell from my spine and from my ribs being slightly uneven that I probably did have scoliosis, but they can't diagnose it officially until you have an X-ray. And I do know in some other countries, they make all the girls, because if you didn't know, scoliosis is much more common in girls. A lot of countries, they will have, when the school nurse comes and does checks on people, they make all the girls bend over and check all the girls' backs.
Well, that's good, I
guess. Which I think is something they should be doing in the UK, because if you didn't know, scoliosis is a thing that gets worse as you grow taller. So if you do catch it at those younger ages, you can put treatment in or just be kind of have more options if you catch it later on.
Can boys get it?
Yeah, boys can get it.
Okay.
But it's just
not as common.
Yeah, it's just much more common in girls. I don't really know what the science is behind that. I don't know if it's just kind of the genetic thing is more common in girls. I'm not sure.
It's also more common in people who are taller, is that right?
I believe so, yeah, because you grow. It happens as you grow taller, so the more chance you have of growing normally, the more chance you have of having it. So I had my back checked at the GP, and they referred me to the local like big hospital for an x-ray. So I went there, had an x-ray, and went to see the like specialist there, the orthopedic specialist. And I remember I was there with my mum, and the guy wasn't very clear. I feel like he wasn't very good at maybe talking to me as a child, because I was only like 10 years old at this time. But I remember he sat me down, he told me I had this condition, and my mum was asking about like future treatment options. And he mentioned the word wheelchair.
Oh my God.
And I don't know if I misheard him at the time maybe, but I heard that and thought, oh my God, he's just told me I'm going to be in a wheelchair.
What did he actually say?
I think maybe he was talking about when you have the operation, that some people, there is a risk.
But you just like zoned out and just heard the word
Yeah,
wheelchair.
I literally just thought, when I was 10 years old, I was sat in the doctor's office being like, oh my God, he's just told me I'm going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I was quite shocked, because at the time I wasn't suffering any consequences of this thing. Like, I had bad posture to look at, but I wasn't having any back pain. I wasn't like, for me, it didn't affect my life. So I was confused why then I would have to have all these big treatments, and why everyone was kind of acting like it was this big scary thing.
And I guess when it's your back, you don't really look at your own back that much. So like, even when you look in a mirror, you can't really see what other people can see.
So I wasn't like aware of what was wrong. I didn't think, I just like, you don't know until you look at an x-ray. And that's what I was saying, a lot of people go through life undiagnosed, and they don't realize they even have it, because if you don't notice, there's no way to tell really, like physically, unless it's bad enough that it is physically visible. So I went to that doctor who told me I did have this condition, and he said that my curve was bad enough that I would have to go for further treatment. So then that big hospital in my local area referred me to the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital, which is like the main hospital in the UK that deals with all things orthopedic. So orthopedic means bones, I believe. So it can be all sorts of issues like hip surgeries, whatever sort of bone issue you might have. But they're like the top people in the UK for scoliosis surgeries. So I was referred to them through the NHS. So I had all my treatment on the NHS. And the local hospital to me that they worked out of was North London. So that was the Watford campus. Do you say campus when it's a hospital? The Watford site. And there was also another site in Bolsover Street in London, which is like central London. So when I was going for my checkups, I would either go to this one in central London or this one in Watford, which is just like North London. So if we're talking about timeframes, I think it probably was maybe 6 months to a year from that initial GP appointment to me actually getting a slot and getting an appointment at the big kind of back hospital, the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital. So I went there, I was probably around 11 years old. By the way, I might get some of these dates wrong because it's all a big blur in my head.
Child.
Yeah. But I was around 11. I remember it was when I was like either in year 6 or year 7 at school, and we went to Watford to the hospital, and the guy there was a very nice doctor, and he was talking through all the possible treatment options, and he explained that surgery could be an option in the future, but before they do surgery on the NHS, they try a lot of other options first. Because those other options might work, and then you don't need to have such an invasive surgery. And also I think if it's the NHS, they obviously try and do like the cost-effective treatments first, because surgery costs a lot for them to do. So they try the kind of cheaper options to see if it fixes it first. So yeah, he explained that I would try a number of different treatments first before I would have to have surgery, and surgery was kind of the last resort. But because it does get more severe as you grow taller, they weren't sure at that age how bad it was going to get. So at age 11, my curve was less severe than it ended up being when I grew taller. So at that age, I was told I was going to have a back brace, which is the first treatment they tried on me. And a back brace is basically a corset, but it's made of hard plastic. I always imagined, Kim Kardashian with the waist trainer. That's what I imagined, because back then, this was like 2013, 2014. That's when they seriously were like promoting waist trainers on their Instagram every day, all the Kardashians.
But theirs were like not made of hard plastic.
Yeah,
theirs
so the kind of
ones.
waist trainers that people sell as like a aesthetic thing, they're made of like soft materials, whereas the scoliosis back brace that you have is made of like fully hard plastic.
Because it's trying to like change the shape of your bones.
Yeah, so the kind of idea of a back brace, which I think when you say it out loud, it sounds pretty like medieval and like old fashioned. The idea of it is you wear this plastic back brace, which has been molded to your body and molded in a way that it's going to push against the spine curve.
It's like having an aligner for your teeth. But
Yeah,
for your bone.
Yeah, so it's basically like pushing against what your body is trying to do, which is curve itself. And it's so tight that your body physically can't move where it's trying to move. So the idea is that it will kind of stay the way it is. The curve, with a back brace, the curve doesn't necessarily get any better than it is when you start the brace, but it just won't get any worse. So the idea is that you won't get any worse, and then hopefully it will stop it getting worse as you grow, because it can't push it back where it's come from, but it can stop it coming out any further.
Right. Then would you have to just wear it forever, or is it until you stop growing?
When you stop growing, the curve stops where it is. I always used to think of it like, you know, those square watermelons that they grow in the hard plastic boxes and they turn square. It's basically the same idea as that.
But you found that really hard, didn't you?
So
it did not sound comfortable at all.
So when you get a plastic brace, what they do is you go in and they use basically paper mache. You go to the hospital, you put on like a thin vest top, you have to be wearing like a thin item of clothing. They put like a pipe, or at least this is what they did for me, it might be different in different hospitals. They put like a pipe down your middle and it's taped on to your body, and then they paper mache all around you. They go like quite far down and quite high up. Like it literally felt like I don't know how to describe it. It was just a really weird situation. Like I'm in this big room with big lights. There's like 5 people in there. I'm like 11 years old. I'm not wearing many clothes, and they're all like touching me and putting paper mache on me. Put paper mache all on me, and then once it's dry, you have to sit there for a bit while it dries, and then
Was it like itchy?
It was wet. I remember it being wet and cold. And then they get these big scissors, and the pipe that they've put down the middle, they cut the pipe to cut the paper mache off, and then they kind of take it off in half and take it off you. So they've got this perfect mold of your body, how it is then. And then
it's a really random job that someone has to just do that.
Paper mache people, yeah. I mean, it's the sort of same process as when you get an arm cast. I've never broke my arm, but I imagine it's a sort of similar thing. And then while I was there for that appointment, they asked me if I wanted a certain colour of the brace, because for like younger children, they had like dinosaur print or like princess print, obviously to try and make it a bit more fun. But because I was so embarrassed, I, for one, hadn't told any of my friends that I had this condition. I didn't want anyone to know, so I wanted to try and make it as like inconspicuous as possible. So I just asked for like a nude colour, so hopefully you wouldn't be able to see it under my clothes.
Why do you think you were so like not wanting to tell your friends, and like where do you think that came from? Was it just because you were so young, or?
I think I was a very shy child, so I just didn't want any attention on me. So yeah, something that would bring attention to me would be having this thing wrong with me. So I think I just didn't want anyone looking at me or questioning, and I was going into secondary school at this age.
Yeah, that is like the hardest time.
And I feel like when you have something different about you in secondary school, that like if you're going to get bullied, they're going to find the people that have something different about them, which is very sad, but unfortunately I think that's just the way schools go. Anyone that has kind of something different about them, or might have a disability or something, a speech impediment, something like that, you've got more chance of people picking on you. So I just didn't want to risk that, I don't think. But I do know my mum was telling like some of my friends' parents, so like my 2 best friends, still my 2 best friends now, Tia and Ella, I'm pretty sure like they knew, and then like I kind of said to them like, you guys know about this, don't you? Like, and we kind of worked it out. So were they
pretending that they didn't know?
No, but they just like didn't ask.
Okay.
But eventually like we talked about it, so my like closest friends eventually knew about it, but everyone else at school didn't. So yeah, back to the colour of the brace. So I picked a nude colour because I wanted it to be inconspicuous. So I picked that on the day of having the cast made up, and then it takes quite a few weeks. I can't remember how long it takes, but it takes quite a while because they've got to make it now in that hard plastic material. And then however long later, you go back to the hospital and get it fitted. So you go and they put it on you and they show you how to tie it. The way that the back brace is fitted to you is it has these pull kind of ties on the back, the same way a backpack does when you adjust the straps. So mine had, I think it was something like 5 on the back. And can I just say, it's really hard to put it on yourself. So you put it on by loosening these straps on the back, putting it on yourself, and obviously it's molded to your body, and mine was quite high, so it was, you know, taking up my whole kind of upper body. And then I had to kind of pull them tight myself.
They should have the pulley bits at the front. That would be easier.
Yeah, I don't know why. It must have been just the way my curve was that they couldn't do that. Maybe it wouldn't have worked as well. But yeah, so every morning I had to put it on myself, and they told me I was going to have to wear it 23 hours of the day. So some people I know don't have to wear their braces as often as that. But for whatever reason, they told me I was going to have to wear it that long. So that basically means you're always wearing it unless you need to shower. That's the only time you take it off. So you have to wear it during your sleep, which means I couldn't sleep on my side, which I am a side sleeper. So I would just sit there at night, like, you just can't move. You're in like a plastic box.
Do you still sleep on your back after that? Like, did it make you get used to that?
I sleep on my side
straight
still.
away
Yeah,
went back to your side.
you can physically sleep on your side with the brace, and what would happen is if you go on your side, this whole side of your body you're sleeping on, it is kind of like crushed, like you're sleeping on hard plastic, and then the part of your back that's at the top there's a bit of air like in the brace because all your body weight's kind of gone to the bottom. I don't know if that's making any sense.
Not really.
Okay. But yeah, so basically I couldn't sleep on my side in the brace. And yeah, so I had to wear the back brace for 23 hours a day, and they didn't tell me at the time how long they expected. I think generally it's kind of expected that you're going to wear it for a few months. They're going to kind of see, they'll do an x-ray and see if it's helped, and then if it has helped, you'll keep wearing it, and if it hasn't helped, they're going to look at other surgery options. So I wore it. I remember it was a few weeks before my 13th birthday. I didn't have the brace yet, and then I was going to have the brace on my 13th birthday. I remember that being like a time that someone mentioned, like, oh, at least up until you're 13 you don't need to wear it, and then you've got it when you're 13. So I believe I wore the back brace for around a year, and that was such a horrible experience, like wearing it under my clothes and wearing it with your school uniform. Like I had to get like a way bigger skirt because it makes your body like bigger because of the way it's done, so it kind of made my body shape look kind of like a square. So I had to get like way bigger school uniform, and I had to buy loads of vests to wear underneath because you can't put it on your hard skin because that will rub, so you have to wear like something underneath it. And like in PE, when we'd be getting changed, I would try and hide it. So I think at first I was going in the toilet cubicles to get changed, but then everyone was like, why are you going in the toilet?
Yeah.
Like, where's Grace? Like, where's she gone? So then I would try and get changed in the changing rooms, and eventually I started just wearing like a t-shirt over the top under my school uniform. So I was wearing a vest, then I was wearing the brace, then I was wearing a t-shirt, then my school shirt.
It must have been really hot in the summer.
Yeah, because I was wearing all these layers. Because I just didn't want anyone to see. Or I would try and like take my school shirt off and put the PE shirt on and like go look in the corner. It is so
weird how like in school you're just expected to just undress in front of everyone. Like that is really weird now that I'm thinking about it.
I know, and like the older teachers would come in to like hurry us up, and like it is kind of weird when I think about it. And yeah, so I was just super awkward around it. I probably made it so much more hard and like awkward for me than it should have been. Like
if you have just, not that like you would have had the bravery to do this, but if you just said, look, I've got this thing, this is what's happening, this is what's going on, then everyone probably would have just left you alone.
Yeah.
But like
I remember
when you're young, you're too nervous to just say things like that.
But yeah, I remember thinking like, oh, maybe I should just tell people it's a waist trainer. But again, I always went on to hide it. And yeah, so a year of wearing that was absolute hell. It was awful. The hard plastic would rub on my hips, and I still have a bit on my hips now where I've got kind of like a scar from it rubbing, and the nerves in my hip, on my right hip, I can't feel the nerves under that. So it's like rubbed on. It was so painful. Like it was pain every single day. Whenever I was sat in class, it would rub, and this certain area of my hips, it rubbed on me. and it was just so painful, like it was awful.
And it just didn't work, so
Yeah,
it's so pointless.
After wearing the brace for, I believe, around a year, I went back for my checkup. They would do checkups every like 6 months or a year or so when I was growing, to check on how the curve was doing. And after a certain period of time wearing the brace, they did an x-ray and they were like, okay, it's not really working. Your curve is still getting worse. And like,
but in a way, when they said like you're gonna have to have surgery, were you slightly happy just that you didn't have to wear the brace for the rest of your life or for a long time?
No, I was.
Or were you just really scared?
Because they also said that after you have the surgery, you might have to have the brace again.
Oh, so
it was like, oh my God, this is just ongoing. Like, I was just like, when will this end? Like, it just seems like awful. So after a year or so wearing the brace, they told me my curve was too aggressive and it was still growing. And that was just awful, because I'm like, okay, all that pain I went through in that year was just kind of pointless.
Yeah.
But then my mum would remind me like, oh, well, you don't know how bad the curve would have got without the brace. So maybe it did help in a way, which is just hard to tell. So after that appointment, they told me I was going to have to get booked in for a surgery, and they were being quite like urgent about it, which kind of worried me, because they were like, I think it was something like, I had the appointment in summer and they told me like in September I was gonna have the surgery like in a few weeks, and
that is quite soon.
Yeah, like they got me an appointment quite fast. So they told me I was gonna have to have the surgery, and I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously I knew, so they told me what they do, if you didn't know, during a scoliosis surgery is they get your back, I think they literally like pick up the bones, make them straight, and then
do they use like, because surely no human arm would be strong enough to do that. Is it like a machine?
But if you think of your spine, it's made up of little vertebrae, isn't it? So it's not like so I think it does, like your spine moves, doesn't it, when you go like that?
Yeah, true.
So I think it does move fairly easily.
Whoa.
So
I've never thought about that detail of it.
Like, well, I've seen a video on YouTube.
How do they straighten it?
You can watch it on YouTube.
Really?
I've only watched like a clip, because then I had to turn it off.
Whoa.
Some people ask their doctors to film it. You can ask your doctor to film. I don't know if they do it in the UK, but yeah, I've seen people have their own videos of them, and I just think that's I would hate that. Just the thought of it. And yeah,
it would be kind of interesting, but yeah, definitely freaky.
Like to see the inside of your body.
Yeah.
Crazy. Anyway, yeah, so the way they do it is they put the spine straight, and then they get metal rods along the side and then metal screws, so they screw your spine to the metal rods to keep it in the straightest place. Now, my first surgery I had, they didn't want to put metal rods and screws on my whole spine, because the more metal you have and the more of your spine, the less flexible you're able to be after the surgery. So because my curve was only at the top of my back at that time and it wasn't as severe, they just put the metal work in the top of my back. Now, for most people, having that will fix the problem. So I was just expecting to have this one surgery and it would be fixed, and then it will be all good. I might have to wear a brace, but I don't know, but it should be fine. So I had the surgery, and yeah, that was not a great experience. I feel like I could talk forever about what happened when I was in hospital, and I feel like maybe that could be a whole other episode of the podcast, but it's not a great experience. It's apparently one of the world's most painful surgeries. I think it's like number 5 on the list, depending on what article you read.
What's the most?
I can't remember what the most is.
Sorry, I'm just taking my shoes off to get comfy.
Oh, Josie's just getting comfy. So I had the first surgery, recovered from that, and then I had my so many months after checkup, and they did another x-ray to check how the metal work was settling in my body, and they said the curve had now moved from where they've put the metal work. The curve has now moved to the bottom of my back, and it started growing in the bottom of my back. And the doctor, who was the same doctor I'd had through this whole process, said that this had only happened twice ever to him in his whole career, and this was very unusual, and he really apologizes for the fact that they didn't know, but they just couldn't have foreseen it happening. But there would have been
nothing that they could do. Could they have done it all in one, or?
Well, they could have, but they try and give you the most flexibility to have a normal life. Yeah. So they don't put metal work on your whole back. I think as well, NHS, for the expense, they're not going to give you the option, because it's cheaper to do less of the metal work, and it's a much longer surgery to put more in. And So yeah, they told me that I would have to have a second surgery to put metal work in the whole of my back. But he said, like, just to reassure you, once you have this second one, you're never going to need another surgery because there's nowhere potentially.
There's no back left.
Yeah, there's nowhere for the curve to
metal.
grow. So they told me I needed the second surgery. And then he also said that after the second surgery, I would have to wear a back brace. I don't know why I had to wear one on the second and not the first. I think it might have been to do with where the metal was put, but he said I'd have to wear a back brace after the second surgery as more of a protection for my body healing after the surgery, less to stop the curve growing because the curve can't grow anymore. But they give people a brace after surgery sometimes
when
just
I
to
broke my
protect
back,
yourself.
Spoiler alert, I broke my back.
Yeah, we're going to get into that later.
I also had a brace to like keep my bones like still while I was healing, so I think that's quite normal. So I had the second surgery, and knowing that I had to have the second surgery was worse than when I got told about the first one, because I knew how bad the recovery was, and to know that I was going to have to do all of that again and wear a back brace as well during the recovery at home. Like, literally, you've had your whole back opened and you've had the most painful, like one of the world's most painful surgeries, and then I had to have the plastic back brace, which rubs on you everywhere. The same type of one, or is it a different one?
It's the same type, but they remolded my back to the shape of how my back was after the second surgery. And my second back brace that I had after the second surgery was actually way worse in terms of pain, because the way they'd done it was a bigger brace, so it went further down, so it rubbed on my hips even worse. And it was so bad that I did actually go to the hospital to get it redone, because it was in after my second surgery, it wasn't the surgery pain that was bothering me, it was the back brace. So I remember my dad took me back to the hospital in Watford, and when I was growing up, we don't live that near to Watford. It was a good 3-hour round trip, so we didn't go that often, but my dad drove me all the way there on a work day to go and get this brace refitted. And I remember they put some foam padding on my hips, but actually it didn't really help much. But I was such a shy kid, when you get your hair cut and you don't like it and you don't want to say. Literally, I was there getting my brace fitted and they were like, so is that better? And I was like, yes, it's way better. But actually I couldn't really feel like it was much different. And then when I got home, I was like, this didn't really help much.
So they didn't cut any of it off, they just added padding.
They did. They cut a bit off and they added more padding underneath, because there wasn't any padding on the original brace, so they added a bit of padding to my hips. So I had to wear that back brace I had the operation in November, and I wore that back brace until the start of February, so I wore that for 4 months while I was recovering.
That must have been a fun Christmas.
Yeah, I remember, I'm pretty sure, I think on Christmas Day, Mum let me take the brace off, even though I wasn't meant to, because she didn't want me to eat my Christmas dinner. Because another thing about wearing a back brace, you cannot eat a big portion of food because your stomach gets bigger and it's really painful. So I just couldn't eat big portions, and I was quite underweight during the years I had these back braces, mainly because you just can't physically eat much food because you're so strapped in.
It hurts.
Yeah, so it hurts to do things. Another thing with a back brace I didn't mention is I was really worried about going on holiday, because you can't be tanning by the pool with a back brace on. But the time I went to Greece, when I had my first back brace, they let me not wear it for a week.
Oh, really?
And that was the best week of my life at the time. They said okay, it's not going to make too much difference if you don't wear it for 1 week. While you go to Greece and you can swim and you can be in your bikini.
But then doesn't that make you think, oh, well, if they're letting me do that for that 1 week, can't I just have a day off here and there? Did you ever just have a day off just because you were
I wore it. I wore it the whole time. The only time I took it off was to shower. But that 1 week I had without the brace was the best. I remember being at the airport and being oh my god, I can move. I remember being at Gatwick and being so happy, and then when I got back, it was
it must have been so bad when you went back, because it's post-holiday blues plus you have to wear a back brace again.
But so I had the second surgery, had the back brace for about 4 months, and then finally I remember I went to London on, I think it was February the 1st, I don't know why I remember that exactly, February the 1st, 2018, went to London with my mum. It was in the central London hospital this time. Went there for my checkup, and they did an X-ray. They said nothing had moved at all, and everything was as it should be. And they were like, "You can take your back brace off." And I was like, "Oh my god!" And I took it off, and they were like, "Do you want to keep it?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to ever see that thing again." So I just left it in the doctor's room, and then this was in February of year 11 at school, and mum was like, "If you get your brace off, we can go prom dress shopping in London," because it was in central London. So that day we went to like Selfridges and we went prom dress shopping.
Aww.
And I remember just being like, so like, oh my god, I can pick any dress. Like, although one thing about me after surgery, I was very insecure about my scar that I had on my back. So that was like a whole nother bucket of fish after I had...
Bucket of fish?
Is that a
Kettle of
Kettle of fish.
Although why is the saying kettle of fish? That doesn't make any sense.
So yeah, after my surgery, I was still very insecure about the scar on my back. So when I was prom dress shopping after taking my brace off, even though I had all the freedom of I can wear any dress, I still wanted to pick one with a high back.
Yeah. And if you think about it, actually there's not that many dresses probably that do have a back that would go all the way up.
Yeah,
to,
like prom dresses. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very hard to find one, but we did find one eventually, and I bought my prom dress that day in Selfridges, so that was fun. And basically ever since then I've had no problems. Touch wood.
Yeah.
Don't know where wood is. See, after my second surgery and I had the brace off, then I would have 6 monthly checkups. So every 6 months I would have to drive to Watford or go to the one in central London, have an X-ray, and they said it was all good. And then when I was 18, then I was moved to, so all this time I was obviously in the children's department of that hospital because I was under 18. And then I remember when I was 18 for my checkups, I was moved to the adult part. So that doctor I'd had the whole time, I was moved to like a different doctor, so it was a bit sad, and I had to go to like a different part of the hospital. Had my checkups, and then I believe it was when I was like 19, I went for my last checkup, and it was when it was lockdown. It was like post-lockdown, I'm pretty sure, because mum wasn't allowed in the room with me for my checkup.
And by the way, for quite a big portion of this, I was living in Australia, so I moved to Australia in 2017. So I kind of missed like your second surgery and all of that kind of stuff. So
well, yeah, most of this, Josie was at uni, and then you moved to Australia.
I did come to visit you in the hospital, I think, for your first surgery. I remember that.
Yeah.
And that was, it was just really sad seeing you there. Like, you just look so like small and just like helpless, and I just felt so bad. And I think I brought you some like grapes or something, and you were like, I don't like grapes. But yeah, like I just feel like I feel bad because I like just wasn't like in the country, so I'd obviously would like speak to you on the phone and stuff, but I didn't really know what was happening that much.
I think it's hard. And like our other sister Daisy was at uni during my second surgery, so like I didn't have that many people at home that was like come to visit me. Like I don't think anyone came to visit me during the second surgery, but like my friends would have, but I didn't want any visitors. I was so like didn't want any fuss around me, that like I didn't want my friends to come, so they would have come if I wanted them to. But yeah, that's my crazy rambly story. I feel like I've missed some key parts in, but also that was very in detail.
It is like a massive period of your life, so it's kind of hard to like summarize it in
it's basically my whole childhood. I can tell you things relating to scoliosis that were going on.
And I feel like you've had such a like, it was really young to have so many surgery experiences, and like I personally have only had surgery. So a couple of months ago I had to have an emergency appendix surgery. I think that's how you say it.
You had an appendicitis?
So I had appendicitis, and then I had to have my appendix taken out, and it all happened really, really quickly, and I had no time to like mentally prepare for it, and it was just like,
and that was your first ever surgery,
shocking, wasn't it? And I think when I had that, I had like a newfound appreciation for what you'd gone through as a child, because like even though it was like, I mean, having a keyhole appendix surgery is like the easiest surgery you can probably have, so even though it was the easiest surgery I could have, I still it was still like going under general anesthetic.
Yeah,
and, like,
it's a lot for your body to
yeah,
go through.
like I just suddenly was like, wow, like Grace has gone through so much like
Yeah.
when she was a child, and I don't think you actually realize it until you have a surgery yourself and you realize just the feeling of like being unconscious and having another human being like take charge of your body, like that is quite intense, and you have to have a lot of trust.
It's strange. And I remember one of my worst fears when I was younger and was thinking about the fact I was going to have surgery was that there would be a fire in the hospital while I was under anaesthetic, and that they would leave me there to die. That I was more scared of that than like the actual.
Wow.
That just shows how young I was. That like my main fear was, oh, what if there's a fire? Like, obviously they have precautions in place where like I guess they would sew you back up quickly and take you outside, or I don't know what they do.
Or maybe they have like a fireproof surgery room. Like they probably have quite good fire doors on those rooms.
But the hospital I was having the surgery in, I mean, you came to visit.
Yeah, it was quite weird.
I think they have done a big renovation on it now, but the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital in Watford in 2013 was basically made of corrugated iron sheds.
Yeah, like when I arrived, I was like, where am I? I was just like walking
It's like a series of corridors all linked together with these outdoor kind of tunnels. So I was like, yeah, if there's a fire, like where are they going to wheel me? Like it's not like a big normal hospital building. It was like all these little tiny sections all connected together. And yeah, I was very scared. And also another thing, when you have a surgery, they make you sign all these papers. I don't know if they did it for you because yours was more of an emergency.
Yeah, I had to sign it on her iPad.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's high tech. When I had my surgeries, all these men came, like these scary looking. I don't know if they were like lawyers or whether they were just the admin team in the hospital or something. But the morning of both my surgeries, they woke me up super early at like 6 a.m. These men in suits came in. I was like lying in bed, like in my pajamas, and they come and they're like, okay, you have to sign this form. And they tried to explain it to you as a child, or I had to personally sign it myself. It says, if you go blind, you will not sue us. If you lose your legs, if you lose the ability to walk, because obviously when you have spinal surgery, there are so many things that can go wrong because of your nerves all being connected to your back. Like if something goes wrong, you could be paralyzed. You obviously could die.
Those things are so scary because even though logically you know that it's probably not going to happen, it's still being presented to you as a possibility.
And you have to sign the fact that if that does happen, you can't even sue them. So like, yeah, if I'd gone blind, I wouldn't get any like compensation. Well, I don't know if you do, maybe, but yeah, I had to sign all this stuff to say that like, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
And at like 13, was I 14? I think I was 14 years old during this first surgery, like signing stuff like that. Like I'd probably never signed anything in my life before that. It's kind of scary that you're signing all that away.
Yeah, that is really scary. Like when I had my appendix out, I had to sign to say that I acknowledge that they could make me infertile from having my appendix out. And that's when I started like crying so much because I was like, what's happening? I was like in this room all alone just being told that I could be like going infertile because I had to have my appendix out. And I was like a few hours before, I didn't even know that I had an appendix problem. I thought I just had like really bad trapped gas or something.
Yeah, see, I don't know what is worse, having an emergency surgery and just suddenly 1 minute you're fine, then 1 minute you're not, or knowing and having like weeks or months to worry and like
I think they're both as bad as each other.
Yeah.
Like both have worse things. It's like when someone's really ill and like versus whether they die really quickly or if they're ill for ages.
Worse, to be honest.
They're both really bad in different ways. So I just don't think there's any like better option.
Good option, yeah. But I think you had your appendix out. When I went to visit you, when you had your appendix out, I was getting like flashbacks. And like one thing about me is I hate anything medical now because it just reminds me of that terrible time. Like I don't like going to the GP if I can help it. I don't like anything to do with hospitals.
Well, thanks for coming even though you didn't want to come.
Yeah, like when I went to visit you on that ward and I heard all the beeps, when you have to sleep in a hospital ward, if anyone has, especially for a long period of time, like I think during my second surgery, I was on the ward for like 10 days.
Yeah.
So 10 nights of these beeps and Also, on the ward I was on, there was like screams at night of
That
of
would have
children
been before
screaming.
noise cancelling headphones, because thank God
Yeah.
I had my AirPods Pro, so I could just like block that all out
Yeah.
and like play music and
See,
like.
that's great. I didn't have that at the time. I had my iPhone 6, and I don't know what sort of headphones I had at the time.
Yeah, so if anyone's having surgery, definitely recommend some noise cancelling headphones.
Yeah, because
that's like
the
the
noises,
number one thing.
the noises on the wards at night are just crazy. And because I was on the children's ward, they were obviously much younger children than me, and I remember there was one, I can't remember which time it was, but there was one kid who would play, they had a TV by their bed and they would play Disney movies, but it was all night long.
Oh my God.
So all you could hear all night was like this faint noise of like a movie playing, and like then screams and beeps. It was just like a nightmare.
God.
Yeah, so yeah, when I went to visit Josie, I definitely was like, oh my God, I do not. And that's one thing I'm kind of scared if I ever want to have kids in the future, like just being in a hospital. Like, I don't think I'd want to give birth in a hospital, because
There would be lots of screaming there as well.
Yeah, I think it would bring back lots of bad memories.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no one likes hospitals, but when you've had your whole childhood like going in and out of hospital, I'm sure it would be a lot worse.
Yeah, definitely. After all that rambling, let's get into your guys' questions, because I know I did have a lot of questions. I feel like I might have answered a lot of stuff in my little story, but let's go into questions. I asked you guys for just scoliosis and more general questions as well. Make sure you follow us on the podcast socials if you do want to be involved every week when I ask for questions from you guys. But yeah, let's have a look at what people have been asking. I think some people did ask some more general questions as well. So I'll start off with the scoliosis based ones, and then we'll go into more general questions. Someone said, do you beep in airport security? I don't, and I also got the same surgery. So that, I think, is one of my most asked questions. People ask if I beep when I go through airport security scanners, and I would just like to clear this up. I don't think I do. But whenever I do fly, I do think I get like extra checked more than whoever I'm traveling with. I don't know if that's just a coincidence, so I'm not sure, but I think if you like Google it scientifically, titanium, which is the metal I have, shouldn't go off as like a metal. But I don't know why, ever since I did have the surgeries, I seem to be checked more often.
Sometimes they have those scanning, don't they, they don't do x-rays, because that would be like crazy.
I think it's like a metal like magnet thing.
They must have some way of maybe knowing, or I don't really know.
I don't know. If anyone works in airport security, please let us know in the comments.
Because you can also walk through with like, because I always ask them, can I keep my Apple Watch on and stuff, and they're like, no, you can keep that on. So, and that's made of metal. So yeah, I don't really know what the procedure is. I think maybe they have just more high tech things, scanners.
Yeah, than we're aware of. So no, the short answer is no. I do not go off when I go through airport security. Someone said my scoliosis scar is really big. I'm wondering how to feel more confident showing it. That is definitely something I struggled with for like years and years. I think the time that I actually accepted my scar was during lockdown. Like, it was that recent that I was insecure about it. Like, whenever I would go on holiday, I would wear baggy t-shirts over my bikini. I would never like wear just my bikini on its own. And I would always pick tops and jumpers and baggy clothes that didn't show my scar. But I think what made me realise is over lockdown, I was like, it's just not that deep. Like, there was so many scary things going on in the world during lockdown that I was like, why does it matter? And then when I was obviously posting content online, I started posting more like body positive stuff, and I just really realised like it's really, first of all, I know the scar does look quite severe when you first get the surgery done, but it should fade over time. Like mine, I would say, is not even that noticeable. I don't think yours
is that noticeable.
Like when I first had the surgery, it was more like red.
It's the same colour as your skin now.
Yeah, so now it's more just like a different texture along where the scar is. But I just think there's so many different reasons people might have surgery. Like, I know, like, obviously you've had your appendix out. I've had friends that have had their appendixes out. If you're a pregnant person, you might have had a cesarean. There's so many people in the world have scars on them, and you probably don't even realise, probably some of your friends will have scars from various health things or whatever. And I think it's way more normal than you probably realise. And also just thinking that if anyone has a problem with that, they're not someone you want to be around. Like, honestly, I think it's more a sign of like bravery and strength than anything else. So I think it just really does come with growing older. I would say, at least for me, it came with growing older and just accepting myself in other ways as well. But yeah, I think just trying to think of the bigger picture and just thinking, honestly, it's not that deep. Like, so many people have scars and different things about themselves that make them different. And yeah, just also the fact it's going to be there your whole life. So you can either choose to spend your whole life hating it or just not caring. And obviously I know which one I'd rather pick. So.
And I always think with any kind of insecurity, just remember that the other person is always thinking about their own insecurities. They're not thinking
no one's
about yours.
looking at your back. And if they are, then they've got their own issues with their own back. So it's really not about you. And yeah, try not to think too hard about things. Someone said, I don't have scoliosis, I think, but my back often hurts. Could that be scoliosis? I would say if anyone out there is having any doubts, especially after listening to my journey, go to the doctors. Obviously, that's easier said than done if you're living in a country where it costs money. But if you're in a position where you can go to the doctor, if you're in the UK and you have the NHS, then please just go and get it checked. Whether you think it's silly, whether your parents say you're being dramatic and it's just your posture is bad, please just go and get it checked out. And also, if anyone out there has younger siblings, or if you have children yourself and you do notice someone's posture is bad, or any health reasons, any changes in people's behaviour, in changes in their posture, please just go and get things checked, because you're always safer getting things checked and the doctor isn't going to think you're silly. And if they do, go and talk to a different doctor. And yeah, if you are really worried about scoliosis specifically, once you have an x-ray, then you'll know. So if you're in a position to do so, please just go and get an x-ray if you can.
And if you notice that your child has bad posture, it's probably not because they're being lazy.
Yeah, if you have a child, please go and get them checked out. And also, scoliosis can be passed down and can be genetic. So if you do have children and you think you might have scoliosis yourself, it's worth keeping an eye on your children because it can be passed down. Someone said, if you could change anything about the diagnosis/surgery process, what would it be? I think I would say, in my opinion, back braces are a very old-fashioned treatment method, and I do think that the medical field is kind of realising that. I think
do they actually work for anyone, really?
I don't know the research behind it. I think, obviously, if your doctor's telling you it might help you, then believe them. But I do think, as a overall kind of thing, it should be looked more into whether it is worth it and whether it's worth like the mental kind of struggles that people can go through. Like, I'm sure it can cause a lot of like severe.
Or maybe there should be more support for the mental health side.
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, I just think it can be such a big thing and affect how your brain views your body, and it can cause so many body image issues. Like, I was never offered any sort of support in terms of the mental side of things.
And because
that's crazy.
You were young, like, you weren't speaking up about how you were feeling. You're obviously just internalizing all of those feelings. And there needs to be professionals who are trained to spot when someone is like internalizing those feelings and like notice that, because children aren't necessarily going to say, oh, I'm feeling this way, because they don't have the vocabulary to do that at that age.
I think for me now, I'm super happy that I see people talking about scoliosis more on social media, which is one of the reasons why I talk about it.
Yeah.
Because when I was growing up, I did not have that support system. So I would say if like the hospital had like a support group, that would have been great when I was growing up, if I could meet other people with the same condition. Obviously now, hopefully on social media, maybe you can make some friends in the comments of even my videos and find other people going through a similar thing. But yeah, I think just talking about it and being encouraged to talk about it with people would have helped a lot when I was growing up. Okay, I feel like I have answered a lot of you guys' questions in my little story. So now we're going to move on to more general health questions and just any questions you guys wanted to know. So someone asked, what is your favourite thing to do on a self-care day?
Ooh, that is a good question.
I feel like my classic one for a self-care day is to have a bath. Baths always make me feel better, especially in winter when it's like cold in your house and you just want to warm up.
Do you know what? When I had my appendix out, I couldn't have a bath for ages, and I haven't actually had a bath since then, because I'm like, can I have a bath now? I don't know.
Well, you can.
It's like I got out of the habit of having a bath, and now I just don't have one.
I really like having a bath. I feel like it's one of the only times I'm not on my phone, which is like...
Sometimes I'm still on my phone if I'm
in the bath. Really? Well, sometimes I have my iPad playing like a TV show.
Yeah.
But so I either watch a show or I'm like reading a book or listening to music. So I still have my devices playing, but I'm not like scrolling on social media. So I run a bath, put all my nice little products in, normally like wash my hair, which some people don't like to wash their hair in the bath.
No, I don't like to wash my hair in the bath. It's weird.
I don't actually like wash it in the bath water. I use the shower attached because I have like a shower bath, so I use the shower, but I'm just sat down.
Oh yeah. Well, I never used to have one of those because I always just thought it was weird because you're lying in your body dirt and then your hair's going in the body dirt water.
No, yeah, if you use the thing, that's
okay,
good,
that makes more sense.
So yeah, I would say have a bath. What would you say yours is?
So I have one of those LED mask things, and I just absolutely love it. I just like because it's like 10 minutes, and so I just lie down and I put on I have the Calm podcast, and they have like this 10-minute what's it called, there's this woman called Tara on there. I don't know who she is, but she's just really relaxing. So, and those are 10 minutes, so I put that on, put my mask on, do my skincare afterwards.
Do you actually find that the LED mask does anything to your skin?
Yeah, because I've had really bad skin in the past, and like I've been on Accutane 3 times.
We're gonna do a whole episode about that.
That's a whole other thing to go down, but yeah, so I feel like it helps with the scars a little bit and like makes them less red, and also the blue light is bacteria killing, so it actually stops more spots coming up. And I noticed that when I use it less, or if I forget to use it, I do get the occasional spot, and then if I've been using it, then I don't.
Someone said, what's the biggest women's health myth that's impacted your life?
Ooh.
I feel like there are so many women's health myths, but let's try and think of one.
I guess just, it's not really a myth, it's just like a society that like the basic assumption is that you should be like tracking your calories and being aware of what you're eating. Like that's just the standard assumption that you are doing that, I feel like, in our society.
I feel like especially if you're someone that like goes to the gym, I feel like whenever I search up, or when I would used to search up like how to gain muscle, or like if I was getting into the gym and wanted to learn how to like improve my techniques in the gym, everyone's like, well, you need to be counting your protein, you need to be counting your calories, because if you're not eating enough, then it's pointless going to the gym, or like you're eating too much, it's pointless going to the gym. Whereas it's like, yeah, I don't think the average human should be aware of how many calories they're eating.
No, we're not like a scientific experiment, like we're just humans, so we don't really need to know that information. I mean, I guess there are certain circumstances where it might be useful to know.
Yeah, if you've got like a health condition like diabetes or something where you do need to be tracking certain levels of what you're eating.
But yeah, just
fair
in general.
enough. But the average person, I don't think should ever need to be calorie counting. I think unless you're like on a weight loss journey and doing it in a seriously healthy way, maybe. But the average person that isn't trying to change their body, you don't need to be counting calories. Yeah. I think the main thing I would say about eating and trying to eat healthy is just eat more fruit and veg. Yeah. Literally. I think that's the main thing you can do to improve your health, is just eat your 5 a day. Yeah. And if you're eating more fruit and veg, you'll be fuller, and then you probably won't feel the need to eat loads of unhealthy food. But again, there's no such thing as like healthy or unhealthy. And I think, yeah, just being so aware of like exactly, and have you seen the videos of those gym bros that take their scales to the restaurants? Have you not seen them?
I am not on this side of the internet. So you're on a weird side of the internet.
So there's these like gym bros that are so obsessed with tracking their macros and their calories. They will go to like a fancy steak restaurant, whip out their weighing scales from their bag. They get the steak, weigh it, track it in their MyFitnessPal.
Are they actually doing that, or are they just doing that for video?
No, they actually do. It's honestly, I don't know how more people don't realise that most of these like gym bros actually do have just eating disorders, because that is not normal behaviour, that is disordered behaviour. And they will weigh like the mashed potato, like, yeah, they weigh out everything of their meal. I have
not seen that.
I'll show you later the videos.
I want to see it.
It's crazy. And just being that aware of like, what amount to the gram of steak you're eating or potato you're eating. Like, why do you need to know that specifically? And also, one thing I don't understand about people that like track the calories to such an extent, like the food packaging is always going to be a bit incorrect. Like, I think in America at least, they can like, the calories can be wrong like either way, like 10 or something per, I don't know how many grams, but like nothing's that serious. So even if you're tracking it perfectly, it's not actually going to be accurate to what you're eating that day.
There's a really good podcast episode on this topic, actually, on maintenance phase. I don't know if you've listened to that. It's a really good podcast. Anyone who hasn't heard of it, go check it out. They have a whole episode on calories, and it's really interesting. It's just, there's so much about it that is
like
a
misinformation.
big myth.
Someone said, do you feel like the winter affects your mental health?
Oh, well, this is a good question for me because I've just moved back from Australia and this is my first UK winter that I've been experiencing.
In how many years?
In 7 years. So I feel like it definitely has. Like, when it gets really dark, before you've even finished work, it's dark. That is really quite depressing. So I've been trying to force myself to go out for walks, like walk my dog Winnie at like midday or like 11 a.m. where it's pretty much at the brightest it's going to be that day, because I just realised how important it is to get like sunlight in your day.
I think it's really weird how we changed the clocks, because literally it goes dark at like 3 p.m. So I find myself now in winter, like I eat dinner much earlier. And like I do everything a bit earlier, just because the minute it's dark I feel tired. I want dinner, I want to go to bed. So then Sundays, if I don't look at the clock, I'll make dinner and get in bed and it's like 6 p.m. and I've already had dinner and got into bed, because in my head I think it's like 10.
Night time. And then it's really hard to wake up as well, because like in Australia everyone wakes up so early because you have to like do things outside before it gets too hot, especially in summer. So I was used to waking up at like 6 a.m. and like getting up and doing things. So yeah, I've just been finding it really hard to wake up.
Well, it's really weird when you wake up at 6 a.m. and it's dark and you're like, oh, my clock must be wrong, like it's the middle of the night, and then you check and it's like, no, I actually have to get up now.
But the worst thing is like when it's still cloudy, and like when it's cloudy outside and it just stays dark kind of the whole day. That's the worst part.
Today the weather was like that, where it's so cloudy that
it just doesn't get light.
You never see the sun. You don't see like the sunlight coming.
I want to get one of those SAD lights for seasonal affective disorder that like mimic the sunlight. I really want to get one of those. I think I need to get one.
And I feel like in houses in England, like if you have a house that's a bit dark anyway, then in the winter, like even here in my flat, I would say my flat's quite bright, but the kitchen room that we're in now, if you didn't know, we filmed this podcast in my flat, if you wondered where we are, this room is north facing, so even on a sunny day in winter you don't get any light, and literally you could shut the curtains and it would be the same brightness. Like you just have to have like the big light on all the time. Which is like just so depressing. And
so I might just fly to Australia in a couple of months if I'm still feeling like I need to escape.
I mean, to answer your question on how to deal with it, I don't know. I think everyone in England is still trying to figure that out.
Force yourself to get outside. If you have a job where you're working in an office, just make sure you take that time at lunchtime to go for a walk, even if it's just a 20-minute walk. Going to get that, like literally the human brain needs sunlight in it for your circadian rhythms and like your hormones, and so many reasons you need to have that sunlight in the day. You can just easily forget about it and just not go outside and just miss the sunlight, and it's so important. It really makes a huge difference. So definitely that is my main thing. Even if it's cloudy and rainy, still going outside and getting some kind of daylight into your eyeballs is so important.
Another thing though I would say is just still go on your walk, but I would say in winter sometimes I feel the pressure to be like going out and doing stuff like I do in the summer months. I do tend to be going out more or seeing my friends more, whereas I think it's just nice sometimes in winter just to think it's okay to like be cozy and embrace just chill. Embrace the fact that it is horrible outside and you do want to stay inside, and still go out and move your body, and maybe you'll just go on your walking pad in your house if it's horrible and rainy.
I do have a walking pad. That's quite good.
I think as like humans in our society, we're always encouraged to be doing stuff and doing more and doing loads of productivity, and we talked about this in our first episode, but I think for me, I kind of see the year as like, okay, summer is more where I'm doing loads, I'm being really social, I'm going out every weekend, I'm doing stuff, I'm going on holiday, whereas winter I do tend to be more quiet, I don't see as many people, I'm a bit more reserved, and that's fine, and you shouldn't feel bad about the fact you might want to stay in on the weekends because it is miserable outside and it gets dark, and to make kind of new things that give you that dopamine but maybe are inside based. So like, rather than on a Saturday night in the summer you would maybe go to a pub garden with your friends or go on a nice sunny walk, make a new tradition of in the winter you're going to get a takeaway every Saturday and watch the TV show you like. Like, there's things you can do inside even when it's dark outside that can still bring you that happiness and like good feeling.
And also candles,
make your house cozy. That's what I would say. Someone said I'm very insecure about my armpits or underarm hair. Could you make another video about it?
Did you make a video about that?
I think I've put
or
it
just
in.
Showing it.
I feel like it's such a weird thing that women are made to feel like they have to shave their underarms. Like, obviously you do you, and it's everyone's personal choice, and I do normally shave mine, but I think it's weird that if I don't, that's a problem. When men do it, that's fine because it's their natural body.
I think I used to have this thing because I go to yoga classes quite a lot, and I used to be like super like, I would like literally shave my armpits like right before I went to the class because I'd always be like really paranoid that somehow like someone would be staring at my armpits. But I think I've just gotten to the point now where I'm like, no one is looking, no one cares. Like, I'm not going around having like full on hairy armpits.
But even if you did,
but yeah, like I
just think there's not many other like body parts where it's like your natural state is
literally right now I haven't shaved my legs in like a week,
so that's fine. I feel like my legs, I don't care about that at all
because they're too far away from your head where your eyeballs are.
But yeah, I just think it's weird how like on men it grows the exact same way and for the same reason, but for them it's fine, but for us it's not. And there's literally no physical difference apart from our gender. It's really weird. But I think just trying to not care, I know that's easier said than done, but I think just realising that is how our body is made.
And also it's your choice what kind of hair, if you do want to do hair removal, it's your choice as to what kind you do. Because I literally remember once when I first moved to Sydney, I went out for like lunch with this new group of girls I didn't really know that well. I had like one mutual friend, and they were all talking about like waxing, like waxing different body parts. And I was like, and I just piped up and was like, oh, I've never had any body parts waxed. And they were like, oh my god, babe, you've never had anything waxed, oh my god, that's so weird. And they made me feel really bad about it, and it was just bizarre.
Maybe because in Australia you're like in your bikini more often.
But they were mainly like British, so it was really weird. But anyway, so like, just never feel like if you just want to shave, like that's fine too.
I've never had anything waxed.
Taylor Swift shaves her legs. Did
I had
you know
my
that?
eyebrows waxed. Okay, I think we've answered all the questions that we have time for today. But I hope this has been interesting. I feel like I did take over the mic quite a lot this episode. Sorry, Josie.
You have a lot of medical history to go through.
Yeah, I have a lot. I could talk for hours and hours and hours all about this topic. So if you do like this episode, please give us a like or a follow or a subscribe wherever you're listening or watching this on. And let us know in the comments if you do want us to go into more detail about any of the things we talked about in today's episode. We will be sure to do a part 2. And also give us a follow on all our socials. So we have at My Big Sister Podcast on TikTok, Instagram and YouTube. Yep, remembered it. And then if you want to follow our personal accounts as well, all mine are at Grace Tutty. Josie's are, what's yours on Instagram?
Josie V Tutty. That's my art account.
Yeah, Josie posts more like creative stuff. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening. Hopefully this was helpful. If anyone out there is struggling with scoliosis or any other health issues, please know there are people out there, and if you do really need that help, please talk to someone, talk to a professional. But yeah, I hope you're all doing really well, and we will see you for next week's episode.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.